Maybe you clicked out of curiosity, or maybe, without even realizing, you were looking for a quiet corner, a place where words arrive slowly, and even the pauses have meaning. I've told this story with care, like stitching together memories, hurts, and small discoveries, hoping that somewhere along the way, a piece of it might feel like yours. And if that happens, even for a moment, stay, listen as far as you'd like. And if you feel like leaving a little sign you were here, a word, a thought, a tiny gesture, those things mean more than you think. Sometimes a simple "I'm here" changes everything. And if you choose to share this space, pass it on, or keep it close, well, that's how these stories find the ones who need them most. If you ask me, I've earned my place in first class. For years, I've worked harder than anyone in this family, networking at the right events, keeping up appearances, making sure the Monroe name meant something in the circles that matter. My parents always said I was the one who could carry the family forward, and I believed them. So, when they announced we were finally taking a family vacation, our first in years, I didn't think twice about it. It was going to be perfect. Sun, beaches, five-star resorts, and the three of us traveling like the Monroes we were. At the airport, the hum of rolling suitcases and overhead announcements felt almost glamorous. My Louis Vuitton glided behind me, iced caramel latte in hand, sunglasses in place. Mom was chatting about her spa appointments. Dad was fiddling with the travel app, and Ava trailed somewhere behind, hugging a small, worn-out backpack. We reached the check-in counter. Dad leaned in with that confident smile of his and said, "Reservation under the name Monroe." The attendant typed, then smiled back. "Here you go. One ticket, first class." "Perfect," I said, taking it without question. Ava's voice broke the rhythm. "And the others?" Mom didn't even look at her. "There's been a change of plans?" Dad said, almost irritated that she asked. "Budget's tight. You've always said you're independent, right? You'll figure it out." He pressed something into her hand. 3 crumpled dollar bills. I glanced over. She just stared at the money, then at them. No protest, no argument, no begging. She just nodded once. Silent. I told myself she'd be fine. She's always been the self-sufficient one, even if that really just means she prefers to do things her own way. Honestly, I thought she'd probably just grab a coffee, head home, maybe binge a Netflix show while we were gone. Still, there was something about the way she looked at us. Not hurt exactly. Not even angry. Just quiet. Too quiet. And for some reason that unsettled me, though I couldn't explain why. The Maldives was everything the brochures promised, and more. From the moment we stepped off the seaplane, warm air wrapped around me like silk. A private golf cart whisked us away to our overwater villa, the kind influencers dream about but rarely touch. I made sure to document it all. An artfully framed shot of our champagne welcome glasses, a perfectly timed boomerang of my feet sinking into the infinity pool. Caption: # family goals and # first class only. Within minutes, the likes started rolling in. Mom floated from spa treatment to spa treatment. Dad lingered over the resort's wine list. And I basked in the life I'd worked for. The kind of life Ava could never really understand. She's always been different. Prefers her old apartment, secondhand clothes, no-name coffee shops. I assumed she was probably curled up on her couch right now, binge-watching Netflix with takeout, and honestly, I thought, maybe that's where she's happiest. I didn't feel bad. Not really. She's always claimed she doesn't need anyone's help. We were just respecting that, right? Still, the thought of her face at the airport flickered through my mind once or twice. That silent nod. No tears, no yelling, just watching us go. When the concierge asked if we had any luggage to send for pressing service, I laughed and told him, "We left the excess baggage behind." He smiled politely, probably taking it literally. But to me, it was more than that. It was a clean break. This trip was about us, the ones who earned it. That night, as I slipped into the Egyptian cotton sheets of my king-sized bed, the sound of the ocean beneath the villa lulled me to sleep. My last thought before drifting off was how right it felt to be here, and how far away Ava was from all of this. The morning after our second day in paradise, a knock came at the villa door. It was the concierge, his tone polite but oddly formal. "Ms. Monroe?" he began. "We're just re-verifying the booking details for your stay, a minor routine check." I blinked. "Re-verifying? We've been here for days." "Yes, of course," he said quickly. "It's just a standard process, nothing to worry about." Still, I noticed the way he glanced at his tablet, then at me, before excusing himself. Later, at the restaurant, I caught another staff member giving me the same sort of sidelong look. Not rude, not hostile. Just measured. I told myself it was probably the system glitching. Big resorts handle thousands of guests. Sometimes files get scrambled. But a tiny thought nagged at me. The same way a single gray cloud stands out in a perfect blue sky. I distracted myself by checking Instagram. My #FamilyGoals post was doing well, over 1,000 likes already. I scrolled, half expecting to see Ava post something bitter or sarcastic. But nothing. No new posts, no likes, no comments. Her profile was silent. That was unusual. For all her claims of not caring about social media, she always posted little snapshots. Her cat on the windowsill, the latte art from her favorite cafe, even random sunsets from her balcony. Now, not even a breadcrumb. I told myself maybe she was busy, or embarrassed, or just sulking. Still, I couldn't shake the image from the airport. The way she'd looked at us, like she was memorizing every detail. I brushed it off. This was my trip. My time. And a few quiet clouds weren't going to ruin the view. Coming back from the Maldives felt like stepping off a dream and into a whirlwind. There were fittings, floral arrangements, seating charts. Every detail of my wedding had to be perfect. And of course, my parents were right there, ready with their helpful opinions. One evening, over wine in my parents' living room, Mom leaned forward with that tone she uses when she's about to be practical. "Oh, and about inviting Ava," she said. Dad chuckled. "Make sure she doesn't show up in one of those thrift store disasters she calls dresses." I laughed, maybe a little too loudly. "Please, if she does, she'll be standing in the back of the group photos." We all laughed then. Easy, comfortable, the way it always feels when we're making jokes at Ava's expense. The truth? I wasn't worried about her ruining anything. She's never been the type to make a scene. That's the one thing I've always liked about her. She stays in her corner. Quiet, predictable. After the guest list was finalized, I moved on to the honeymoon plans. I'd been dreaming about this for months. A private jet, turquoise waters, and the kind of privacy only money can buy. Scrolling through options, I stopped on a sleek, black and gold logo I recognized from my wish list. An exclusive private aviation company that catered to royalty, CEOs, and influencers like me. The photos were perfect. Plush cream leather seats, champagne service, discreet crew. The kind of thing that makes your followers feel your success. Without hesitation, I booked our Maldives return flight through their system. It felt almost symbolic, flying back to the same paradise where we'd toasted my perfect life just weeks ago. It never crossed my mind to wonder who owned the company. Why would it? People like me don't need to think about things like that. If I'd known then what I know now, I might have looked twice before hitting confirm. The morning of our honeymoon was supposed to be flawless. Tyson had his tailored linen suit, I had my designer luggage, and a white silk travel set that practically screamed luxury lifestyle. The chauffeur dropped us right at the private terminal. No crowds, no chaos, just the smooth hum of exclusivity. We walked in, hand in hand, ready to board, and that's when the first crack appeared. The concierge's polite smile didn't reach his eyes. "Ms. Monroe, I'm afraid your flight has been canceled." I laughed, assuming he'd misspoken. "You mean, delayed?" His fingers tightened slightly on the tablet. "No, ma'am, canceled. Your account has been locked for security reasons." It was like someone had poured ice water down my back. "Locked? This is my honeymoon. Do you have any idea?" He kept his voice calm, almost rehearsed. "All bookings under your name now require clearance from our central management office." Tyson shifted beside me, clearing his throat. "Can you just call them? Fix it?" I snapped out my phone and dialed the customer service line. After 2 agonizing holds and 3 transfers, a voice finally said, "I'm sorry, Ms. Monroe. We can't proceed without approval from our executive office. You'll need to contact them directly." Contact them? I was standing in their terminal. My voice rose. "I don't contact anyone. I'm a client. You fix it now." People were staring. I didn't care. My cheeks were hot. My hands were shaking, but not from fear, from rage. Tyson tried to calm me, murmuring about rebooking on a commercial airline, but the thought of walking into a regular terminal like everyone else was unbearable. To make it worse, the resort we'd booked in the Maldives refused to adjust our dates. "Due to high demand, your reservation will be marked as a no-show," the manager informed us. Like we were nothing. I felt the walls closing in. I was making my point louder now, gesturing toward the staff, demanding names, demanding explanations. That's when I noticed a woman off to the side. Oversized sunglasses, camera in hand, pretending to scroll her phone. I didn't think much of it until later that night, when the video hit social media. The caption read, "When your private jet gets grounded and the meltdown is first class." By morning, it had been viewed over 2 million times. By sunrise, the comments were everywhere. The video of me at the terminal, hair perfectly curled, sunglasses pushed up on my head, voice cutting through the air like a blade, was being stitched, duetted, and memed. "Rich girl entitled meltdown." This is what first-class tantrums look like. Meanwhile, I'm just trying to afford bus fare. It didn't matter that it was my honeymoon. It didn't matter that the airline had messed up. The internet had decided I was the villain, and once they decide that, you're done. By the second day, brands I'd partnered with for years had gone quiet. A few sent polite emails about reassessing future collaborations. Others didn't bother to reply at all. The invitations stopped. The DMS slowed. Even friends I'd known for years were suddenly busy. I told myself it would blow over. These things always do. But a knot in my stomach wouldn't go away. And then, against my better judgment, I did something I hadn't done in 2 years. I called Ava. No answer. Straight to voicemail. Fine. If she wanted to play it that way, I'd make my point in writing. I typed out the words quickly, my nails clicking against the screen. "You're jealous. You've always been pathetic." I hit send before I could second-guess myself. No reply. Not a word. It was strange. And more than strange, it was infuriating. Because for the first time, I felt like I wasn't the one in control of the silence. The call came while I was at a dress fitting. I could hear Mom's voice through the speakerphone, sharp at first, then clipped. then uncharacteristically quiet. When she hung up, she looked pale. "It was the resort," she said finally. "They've put our family on a high-risk guest list." I blinked. High risk? For what? Something about abusive conduct toward staff. She didn't look at me, but we both knew exactly what they meant. Dad tried to brush it off. "It's just one resort." But word travels fast in our circles. By the end of the week, 3 couples who'd once been regular dinner guests had suddenly postponed our plans. A charity board I sat on quietly asked if I'd step back until things cooled down. It wasn't just me. It was all of us. We were being shut out. Then, one evening, Mom made her announcement over dinner. "We're inviting Ava to your bridal shower." I nearly choked on my wine. "Your what?" "She's still family," Mom said, voice too sweet to be real. "People will be watching. We need to show we're united." I could see through it instantly. This wasn't about mending fences. This was about optics. A perfect group photo. Sisters smiling, parents glowing, everyone pretending the last few weeks hadn't happened. I didn't want her there. Not after the Maldives, not after the years of awkward silences. But I also knew the truth. A family portrait missing one daughter looked worse than a family pretending everything was fine. So I agreed, reluctantly. "She can come," I said, "but just keep her in the background." Because in my mind, that's all Ava had ever been. Background. And I intended to keep it that way. The bridal shower was supposed to be mine. My colors, my music, my guest list, right down to the champagne flutes with little gold initials etched into the glass. The first hour went exactly as planned. Compliments on my dress, laughter at the table, clinking glasses. And then the front door opened. Ava stepped in. Not in one of her shapeless thrift store finds, but in a floor-length silk gown the color of midnight, cut perfectly to her frame. Her hair was styled in soft waves, makeup flawless, subtle enough to look effortless, but expensive enough that I knew it wasn't. On her arm was a man I'd never seen before. Tall, sharply dressed, the kind of quiet confidence you can't fake. His watch alone was worth more than some people's cars. The room changed in an instant. Conversations faltered, eyes shifted. Guests leaned toward each other, whispering. I caught snippets. "That's her? Did you hear? I didn't know she was doing that well." I smiled tightly, forcing my expression into something polite. "Ava, you made it." She just smiled back. Calm, measured, almost like she was the hostess and I was the guest. The man beside her shook my hand, warm and firm, but his gaze lingered just a second too long, like he was sizing me up. I told myself it didn't matter. I was still the bride, still the center of the celebration. But as I watched Ava move through the room, guests turning toward her, eyes following, I felt something I hadn't expected. Not just annoyance, something colder. A creeping sense that, for the first time in my life, I might not be the one holding the spotlight. Dinner plates had been cleared, and the room buzzed with that comfortable lull before dessert. That's when Ava stood. She held her champagne flute delicately, her eyes sweeping the table before settling on me. "To family," she began, her voice steady, almost warm, until her next words cut through the air. "To the family who once left me at an airport with $3 and taught me how to build an empire from it." The glass froze in my hand. A murmur rippled through the room. Some guests turned to me, others back to her, but everyone was whispering. I tried to smile, but my face felt stiff. "That's quite a story," I said, my voice tighter than I intended. The man beside her, the one I still didn't know, smiled easily and stepped forward. "For those I haven't met," he said. "I'm Daniel Carter. I'm the co-founder and largest shareholder of Falcon Charter Aviation." My stomach dropped. Falcon Charter Aviation. The same private jet company that had mysteriously canceled my honeymoon. Daniel glanced at Ava, his smile softening. "And this woman beside me? Well, she owns just enough of the company to make final calls on certain bookings." His eyes met mine for just a beat too long. "Including yours." The air in the room shifted. It wasn't just whispers now. It was realization. My honeymoon hadn't been ruined by bad luck or a clerical error. It had been her. And not because she was jealous, not because she wanted to get back at me in some petty way. No. Ava had the power to dismantle my plans entirely, and she'd used it. In that moment, I realized she wasn't the quiet background character I'd always assumed. She was the one writing the script. The night of the bridal shower, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Ava standing there in that silk gown, glass in hand, her words replaying over and over. A few days later, the final blow came. Not from her directly, but from a mutual acquaintance over lunch. "Did you hear?" she asked casually, almost as if she didn't know the wound she was about to open. "Ava just won the Innovation in Aviation Award. Her name's engraved on the trophy. Apparently, she's now the controlling shareholder of Falcon Charter Aviation." I felt my chest tighten. Falcon. The very company I'd been gushing about to my followers for months. The one I'd bragged about maybe partnering with someday. But that wasn't the worst part. The acquaintance leaned in, lowering her voice. "Funny thing. I heard she and her husband bought those shares from an investment deal your parents turned down years ago. Said it wasn't worth the money." I sat back in my chair, the noise of the restaurant fading into a dull roar. All this time, I'd thought Ava was drifting through life, a quiet shadow in the background. In reality, she'd been building her reach, piece by piece, right under all of our noses, and when the moment came, she'd used it. Cleanly, precisely, without raising her voice. I thought I was the one flying highest in this family, but the truth? I'd been soaring inside a sky she owned, and she'd decided exactly how far I could go.